Captain Lena Rostova stood on the bridge of the UES Silent Arrow, her knuckles white as she gripped the command chair's armrest. Outside, the cosmos didn't flow or streak by. It simply changed. One moment, they were staring into the heart of a stellar nursery, a kaleidoscope of cosmic dust and newborn stars. The next, they were hanging in the silent, empty void between galactic arms. There was no sense of motion, no disorienting lurch, no visual cue of travel at all. There was only the absolute state of before and the absolute state of after. This was the unnerving, godlike reality of the resonance engine. For 2 years, humanity had wielded this power in secret, a small, fragile species suddenly holding a key that could unlock any door in the universe. It was a discovery born from a mistake, a failed experiment in quantum entanglement communication that had unexpectedly revealed a fundamental truth. The universe had a baseline frequency, a cosmic hum that permeated all of existence, and human consciousness, for reasons no one yet understood, could be attuned to it. The resonance engine didn't move the ship through space. It vibrated the ship's very atoms into a specific harmony that allowed the universe itself to move around it, creating instantaneous, untraceable micro-wormholes. To any outside observer, a human ship simply ceased to exist in one location and reappeared in another, leaving behind no energy signature, no wake, no trace of its passage. Resonance stability at 100%. Captain, Lieutenant Kalin, the ship's pilot, reported calmly. His fingers danced over a console that looked more like a musical instrument than a flight stick, its surface glowing with soft harmonic light. No temporal shearing, no spatial distortion. We are ghosts. Keep us on this observation vector, Lieutenant, Eva ordered, her voice a low, steady anchor in the silent bridge. I want to see what the Cathar are so proud of. Deep in the core of the galaxy, on the throne world of Cathar Prime, a planet of perfect crystalline cities and unnerving geometric precision, something far from calm was unfolding. The Cathar Imperium, a civilization that had ruled its vast domain for 10 millennia, was in a state of sanctimonious panic. They were the self-proclaimed guardians of cosmic law, and their most sacred doctrine, the very foundation of their society, was the sanctity of linear travel. To the Cathar, the universe was a grand, predictable equation. All faster than light travel was to be a known variable, traceable, and obedient to the laws of causality as they understood them. Their hyperlanes were fixed, their jump points cataloged. Their entire military and economic power were built on this predictable, orderly flow. In a vast obsidian chamber that absorbed all light and sound, the High Executor Malachor addressed his council. His chitinous armor, the color of a dying star, seemed to float in the darkness and reflecting the grim, multifaceted eyes of his subordinates. For 6 cycles, our deepest listening posts have detected aberrations. Malachor's voice was a low growl like grinding stone, a sound that carried the weight of absolute authority. Glitches in the fabric of space-time. Objects appear and disappear from secure sectors without a corresponding energy trail. They are not natural phenomena. They move with purpose. They observe. A lesser prelate, a younger Cathar named Orin, whose armor was a less ostentatious shade of bronze, dared to speak. His voice carefully modulated to show respect. High Executor, could it be a sensor malfunction? A new form of stellar interference we have yet to catalog? Interference does not selectively observe our border patrols and research outpost. Malachor snapped, his head swiveling to fix all 8 of his eyes on Orin. The younger prelate felt a chill, a primal fear of a superior. This is technology, unsanctioned, unpredictable, heretical. It is a perversion of the natural order, a blasphemy against the predictable clockwork of the cosmos. He gestured to a holographic display that floated in the center of the chamber, showing a dozen points of light vanishing and reappearing across a star map of their most secure territories. These glitches are an affront to the stability we have maintained for ages. They are a song of chaos sung in a chorus of order. We will not allow this chaos to fester. We will find its source, and we will purge it. The Imperium, A monolithic power that had never encountered a technology it couldn't understand or crush was preparing its response. They didn't know who these newcomers were, but they knew one thing. They were different, and to the Cathar, different was dangerous. The gears of their immense war machine, a machine that had silenced entire civilizations for lesser transgressions, began to turn, grinding toward the quiet, unassuming solar system that housed a species they had not yet even named. The conflict humanity had tried so desperately to avoid was now racing toward them, all because they had found a new, impossible way to sing the universe's song. If you believe that human ingenuity is our greatest strength, consider subscribing to Apex Fleet HFY. We explore stories just like this one, where our unique way of thinking changes the galaxy forever. A week later, Lena Rostova's small scalp flotilla, the Silent Arrow, the Echo, and the Shade, was charting a dense, beautiful nebula when the universe around them was torn open, not by a natural event, but by the brutal, perfect precision of the Cathar Imperium. 3 massive, wedge-shaped cruisers, each 5 times the size of the Silent Arrow, sliced through space-time, their conventional FTL drives leaving shimmering, ugly scars in the void. Their hulls were a matte black, designed to absorb sensor pings, and bristled with weapon emplacements that spoke of overwhelming force. "Hostiles detected," Halen shouted, his calm demeanor finally breaking into sharp professionalism. "Their Cathar Purifier class, they're powering main batteries. All ships, execute evasive pattern Delta," Eva commanded, her voice cutting through the rising tension on the bridge like a surgeon's scalpel. "Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. We are here to observe, not to start a war." "They're not giving us a choice, Captain," the tactical officer yelled, his own console flashing with red alerts. "Incoming fire, multiple vectors. Beams of pure thermal energy, hot enough to melt asteroids, lanced across the space where the human ships had been moments before." The Cathar weapons were precise, powerful, and utterly useless. The human ships were no longer there. They had performed a synchronized microjump, a flawless 3-part harmony of resonance, reappearing 1,000 kilometers away, their engines humming softly. Their crews rattled, but unharmed. Aboard the Cathar lead cruiser, the Vigilance, Prelate Orin watched the targeting screens display nothing but residual energy and failure. "They're gone, High Executor," he reported to the holographic image of Malachor, who was commanding the flotilla remotely from his flagship miles away. "They are not going, Prelate?" Malachor's voice crackled with a cold, intellectual fury over the comm. "They are mocking us with their heresy. They are dancing in the shadows. Recalculate their position based on their last known vector and saturate that area. I want a cube of space 100 kilometers on each side rendered into plasma." Again, the Cathar fired, and again they hit nothing but empty space. The 3 human ships danced around them, performing a ballet of instantaneous teleportation that made a mockery of Cathar tactics. They never fired a shot. They simply avoided. Eva had her ships perform a complex 3-dimensional weave, appearing and disappearing in a pattern so intricate it was designed to look random, but was in fact a carefully choreographed message. We are everywhere, and you can touch nothing. Eva knew this couldn't last. They weren't fighting, they were demonstrating, and the demonstration was horribly misinterpreted. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Universal frequency, no encryption. Let them hear our voice." "Channel open, Captain." "This is Captain Lena Rostova of the United Earth ship Silent Arrow," she began, her voice steady, projecting a calm she did not entirely feel. "We are a peaceful exploration vessel. We do not seek conflict. We ask that you cease your attack." The response came from the Vigilance. It wasn't a voice, but a data packet, cold and formal. A declaration of absolute judgment. "You are unsanctioned. Your method of travel is a violation of the natural order. You are classified heretics. Surrender your vessels for purification or be purged." "They're not listening," Kalen muttered, his hands hovering over the controls. "They don't want to listen," Eva corrected him, her eyes fixed on the enemy ships as they began to move, attempting to form a triangular pincer formation, a futile gesture against ships that could ignore distance. "They just want us to stop being different." She knew this single encounter would seal humanity's fate. The Cathar had seen their power, not as a defense, but as an unpredictable, chaotic weapon. They had tried to show peace, but all the Imperium saw was heresy. All ships, Eva said, her voice heavy with the weight of what was to come, set a course for Earth. Maximum resonance speed. The Imperium is coming. The 3 scout ships vanished in a final coordinated jump, leaving the Cathar cruisers alone in the silent nebula. Prelate Orin stared at the spot where they had been, a seed of doubt planted in his mind. They hadn't fought back. They hadn't even been armed for a major conflict. They had simply left. But Malachor saw it differently. He saw cowards who had run from the righteous might of the Imperium. His report to the throne world was simple and chilling. The heretics were real. Their power was an affront to cosmic law, and they were retreating to their home system. The Purifier fleet would follow. Back on Olympus Station, the high-orbit command center above Earth, Admiral Ben Carter watched the final report from the Silent Arrow with a grim expression. The holographic log showed the Cathar cruisers firing on empty space, followed by the formal, chilling declaration branding its people as heretics. Eris Thorne, the creator of the resonance engine, stood beside him, looking more like a worried grandfather than the man who had redefined physics. "I warned them this might happen," Thorne said softly. "The Cathar value order above all else. To them, our ability to sidestep causality is an innovation. It's a cosmic crime." "It was a calculated risk, Eris," Carter replied, his gaze fixed on the tactical map, where a massive, ominous icon labeled Purifier Fleet was now moving steadily toward their system. "We couldn't stay hidden forever. We had to know what was out there." Eva followed her orders perfectly. She demonstrated an ability to evade, not to attack. And in doing so, she demonstrated an ability they cannot counter, Thorne countered. To a mind like Malakor's, an unknown variable is a threat that must be eliminated. He won't see our lack of aggression as a sign of peace. He will see it as a sign of cunning, of a predator hiding its claws. Carter nodded, turning away from the map. "You're right. They've classified us as heretics to be purged. That's not a prelude to negotiation. It's a death sentence." He straightened his uniform, his face hardening. "Alert the resonance fleet. All 20 ships are to be on high alert. Tell them to prepare for visitors. Our first real contact with the galaxy won't be a handshake. It will be a siege." The Admiral's orders rippled out through the Sol system, a quiet, determined preparation for the storm that was coming. On Earth, the news was kept from the general public, but the gears of a planetary defense system, one that had lain dormant for a century, began to turn once more. 2 weeks later, the sky above Earth changed. A fleet of such impossible scale that it dwarfed any gathering of ships in recorded history tore its way into the Sol system. Over 2,000 Cathar warships, a sea of black, wedge-shaped vessels, formed a blockade that stretched from the orbit of Mars to the asteroid belt. At their center was the unshakable Word, Malakor's flagship, a vessel so vast it blotted out the stars behind it. Admiral Ben Carter watched from the command center of Olympus Station. "Report," he said, his voice rumbled low. "They've stopped counting at 2,300 ships, sir," an analyst replied, her voice trembling slightly. "The Purifier fleet, it's their Grand Armada. Humanity's entire defense consisted of just 20 ships equipped at resonance engines. They were led by Captain Lena Rostova, now promoted to fleet commander, aboard the newly commissioned battleship, the UES Retribution. Their brain patterns couldn't harmonize. It created a resonance cascade that atomized everything in a 10-kilometer radius. The technology isn't a weapon we built. It's an extension of what we are." The revelation hit the room like a shockwave. It wasn't just that they wouldn't surrender. It was that they couldn't. Their greatest strength was inextricably and dangerously linked to their very humanity. They were trapped. That moment of realization, where an impossible choice becomes no choice at all, is a powerful theme in these stories. If you're enjoying this turning point, take a moment to hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that stories of human resilience are worth sharing. Aboard the Retribution, Lena Rostova received her orders. They were simple and dangerous. Show them what we can do. Show them they can't win. But do not harm a single one of them. Standing beside Eva on the bridge was a man in a different uniform, one without the rigid lines of the military. He was Diplomatic Officer Julian Vance, an expert in xenolinguistics and the head of the First Contact Corps. "Captain," Vance said, his voice calm and measured. "The Cathar understand power, but they also revere order and protocol. A direct military demonstration might be seen as pure aggression. May I suggest we make one final formal attempt at diplomacy before we dance?" Eva considered it. The orders were to demonstrate capability, but they didn't preclude one last attempt at peace. "Your call, officer, but make it quick." Vance nodded and moved to a dedicated communications console. He configured it to send a formal diplomatic overture, a packet encoded with universal mathematical constants and symbols of peaceful intent. "This is Diplomatic Officer Julian Vance of the United Earth Protectorate, requesting a formal parley with High Executor Malachor to discuss a peaceful resolution to this standoff." The message was sent. For a long minute, there was only silence. Then, a response came back, not as a voice, but as a single stark icon projected on the main screen. The sigil of the Cathar Imperium, glowing a deep, menacing red, which in their protocol meant unrecognized entity, communication refused. Vance sighed, stepping back from the console. "Well, we tried the path of words. Their refusal is absolutely true. The floor is yours, Captain." Eva gave him a grim nod. "Thank you, Julian. At least no one can say we didn't ask nicely." She turned back to her command chair. "All ships," she commanded, her voice broadcast to the tiny fleet of 20. "It seems a demonstration is our only remaining diplomatic language. We are ghosts in their machine. Let's show them." The Retribution moved first. It didn't accelerate. It simply ceased to exist, and in the same instant reappeared directly before the Cathar fleet. On the bridge of the flagship Unshakable Word, alarms blared in a chorus of confused disbelief. The sensors couldn't process a vessel moving from Earth's orbit to the edge of the asteroid belt in zero time. "Sir, one of them is here!" the sensor officer shouted, his voice tight with shock. "Directly in front of us!" "Impossible!" Malachor roared. "Fire! Fire everything!" But the command was futile. Before the Cathar weapons could even achieve a target lock, the Retribution began a graceful, impossible dance. It vanished, only to reappear on Malachor's port side, then his starboard, then hovering, motionless, directly above his command bridge. The great fleet began to move, a wall of steel and fury descending upon Earth. But the 20 human ships were no longer there. They were waiting, silent and unseen, ready to show the Imperium that you can't cage a ghost. The standoff had begun, but one side had already proven that the rules of war no longer applied. The space between worlds held its breath. The Cathar Purifier Fleet, a monument to conventional power, advanced on Earth. Lena Rostova, aboard the Retribution, gave the order that would escalate the demonstration into a lesson. "Commander Chen," she said to her second-in-command on the UAS Echo, "you have the target. Execute the redirection maneuver. Show them we command space itself." The UAS Echo, a smaller frigate, jumped. It didn't move toward the fleet, but away from it, toward a rogue comet on the edge of the solar system, a chunk of ice and rock the size of a small city. The Cathar barely noticed. Their focus was on the coming purge. On the bridge of the Unshakable Word, Prelate Orin felt a growing unease. "High Executor," he ventured, "their technology is clearly beyond our understanding. A parley." "Silence, Prelate," Malachor boomed. "They play tricks, nothing more. Activate the suppression field, now." A network of specialized Cathar ships began to emit a low-frequency wave, a disruptive energy field, designed to destabilize and collapse any conventional FTL drive caught within it. It was their ultimate cage. The field expanded, a shimmering bubble meant to trap the human fleet. But as the bubble expanded, the 20 human ships simply jumped, reappearing 1,000,000 kilometers outside the field's effective range in an instant. And then, the comet changed course. Pulled by an invisible, precise force, the massive celestial body began to move. The Echo, using its resonance engine to project a localized gravitational field, was steering it. The comet wasn't aimed at the fleet, but on a perfect, elegant trajectory that would see it pass harmlessly through the center of their formation. The Cathar watched in stunned disbelief. They were witnessing the casual redirection of a celestial body by a single, tiny ship. It was a feat of engineering so advanced it bordered on godhood. They had brought weapons to destroy the world, and humanity had responded by rearranging the heavens as a message. Malicor's pride, however, was a force greater than gravity. A parlor trick. They distract us while they prepare for their true attack. All ships in advance. Fire at will upon reaching optimal range. The fleet surged forward, a wave of righteous fury. But as they did, a disaster of their own making struck. One of their suppression field generators, pushed to its limit, suffered a catastrophic overload. The ship, the Righteous Blade, lost all power, its own cage having crippled it. It began to drift, and its reactor core was going critically. Before any Cathar vessel could react, the UES Shade jumped to its location. It didn't attack. It positioned itself beside the dying Cathar ship and activated its resonance engine. It created a pocket of stabilized space-time, a bubble that contained the imminent reactor explosion. The energy of a dying star was absorbed harmlessly into a resonance field. The crew of the Righteous Blade was saved by the very heretics they had come to purge. That act of mercy shattered the morale of the Cathar fleet. The comm channels erupted. Commanders questioned the High Executor's orders. Pilots watched the replay of a human ship saving their comrades, while their own leader had pushed them toward destruction. On the flagship, Prelate Orin turned to face his commander directly. The usual difference in his posture was gone, replaced by a rigid spine of conviction. "High Executor Malicor," he said, his voice loud enough for the entire bridge crew to hear. "You call them heretics, but I have just witnessed them redirect a comet to avoid a collision and then contain a reactor breach as to save the lives of your own soldiers. These are not the actions of chaotic destroyers. They are the actions of a disciplined, honorable power." Malicor rounded on him, his mandibles clicking in fury. "Honor? They play with the laws of physics like children with toys. This is a psychological tactic, Prelate. They show mercy to one ship to make the other 2,000 question their resolve. It is the most insidious form of warfare." Orin countered, stepping closer. "It is exactly what it appears to be. A demonstration that they value life more than conquest. They have not fired a single weapon. They have answered our aggression with miracles of engineering and compassion. We came here to purge heresy. What if we are the ones who are blind?" The tension on the bridge was thick enough to suffocate. The bridge crew looked back and forth between the two, their loyalty visibly divided. Malicor saw the dissent in their eyes and knew his authority was fracturing. "That is enough, Prelate," he roared. "Another word and I will have you stripped of your rank and confined for sedition." Orin simply gave a short, sharp bow. "As you command, High Executor." He returned to his station, but his mind was made up. If his commander would not see the reason, he would find someone who would. On the flagship, Prelate Orin saw his chance. He bypassed Malicor's command lock and opened a direct, desperate channel. "This is Prelate Orin of the Unshakable Word," he broadcast to the human fleet. We do not understand. You have the power to annihilate us. Why do you show mercy?" Eva Rostova's face appeared on his screen. "Because power isn't a license to destroy, Prelate," she said, her voice calm and clear. "It's a responsibility to protect. We are not your enemies. We never were." "But your technology, it is chaos," Orin insisted. "It is to you," Eva replied. "To us, it is a part of who we are. We cannot give it to you, not because we hoard it, but because it would be a catastrophe for any non-human mind to attempt to wield it. We were not hiding from you out of malice. We were hiding out of fear. Fear of this exact misunderstanding." The conversation was broadcast to the entire fleet. For the first time, the Cathar heard humanity's side. The seed of doubt Orin had felt now bloomed in the hearts of thousands of his brethren. They saw a species that wielded unimaginable power with restraint, a species that answered an attack with a rescue. High Executor Malicor, watching his authority crumbled, felt only rage. His entire worldview was being dismantled. But before he could issue another command, a new signal pierced the chaos. It came from a deep space observatory on the very edge of the galaxy, a panicked, screaming alert that overrode every channel. "Galactic threat alert, code Omega. The Scourge is here. The Scourge is here. Sector Gamma is gone. All energy consumed. It's a wave of Of nothing, it's... The signal went dead. A holographic map lit up on the bridges of every ship, human and Cathar alike. On the far rim of the galaxy, the section of space was simply dark. A creeping void, expanding at an impossible speed, consuming stars, planets, and nebulae. It wasn't an invading fleet, it was a galactic plague. "What is that?" Admiral Carter demanded from Olympus Station. It was Dr. Thorne who answered, his face pale with terror as he analyzed the energy readings. "It's the crystalline scourge, a theoretical, self-replicating crystalline life form that feeds on raw energy. Conventional weapons, lasers, plasma, they'll only make it grow faster. It converts any energy it touches into more of itself." He looked up from his console. "It's a galactic cancer, and it's heading this way." The standoff was over. The Cathar's great enemy wasn't the small fleet of humans before them. It was a relentless, unthinking tide of cosmic horror that threatened to consume them all. And the only people in the universe with a technology that didn't rely on conventional energy were the heretics they had just tried to exterminate. High Executor Malachor stood on his bridge, utterly defeated. Prelate Orin turned to him, his voice no longer questioning, but certain. "High Executor," he said, "we need them." The combined fleets, once poised for mutual destruction, now stood together in stunned silence, facing a darkness that threatened to devour the stars themselves. Captain Lena Rostova received the transmission from Prelate Orin. The Cathar diplomat's voice was stripped of all its earlier arrogance. "Captain Rostova," Orin began, "our archives speak of the Scourge as a myth, a great filter that consumes galaxies. Our weapons are useless. Worse than useless, they will feed it. What can we do?" Eva turned to her science team. "Report." Dr. Thorne's face appeared on screen, grim. "It's a resonance cascade failure on a cosmic scale. The crystalline lattice of the Scourge propagates by absorbing energy and replicating. But like any crystal, it has a resonant frequency. If we can hit it with the right harmonic, we can shatter its structure on a quantum level. But we'd need to generate a frequency wave that envelops the entire Scourge front. And you can't do that from one point," Eva finished the thought. "You'd need multiple resonance points activated in perfect synchrony." "Precisely," Thorne confirmed. "A task requiring instantaneous coordinated positioning across millions of kilometers. A task only our ships can perform." The plan was born of desperation and necessity. The 20 human ships with their resonance engines would be the scalpel. The 2,000-ship Cathar fleet would be the shield and shepherd. They would use their conventional weapons not to harm the Scourge, but to hurt it, to channel the massive crystalline wave into a predetermined kill zone. Malachor, humbled and broken, ceded command of the joint operation to a council led by Eva and Prelate Orin. His entire life had been dedicated to order, and he now had to place his trust in a technology he had branded as chaos. The battle took place in the void where the Orion Nebula once glittered. The Scourge arrived at a shimmering wall of black crystal, miles high, crackling with stolen energy. It didn't have ships, it was the ship, a single galaxy-sized organism. "Cathar fleet, you have your orders," Orin broadcast. "Use low-yield kinetic rounds. Guide to it. Do not feed it with energy weapons. Force it into the Vega corridor." The massive Cathar fleet, once an instrument of purge, now acted as cosmic heapdogs. They fired massive slugs of inert metal, creating kinetic barriers that the Scourge, in its mindless hunger, flowed around. Slowly, painstakingly, they guided the crystalline tide into a bottleneck between two dead stars. "Human fleet." Eva's voice was the calm at the heart of the storm. "The corridor is closing. We have one chance. Execute Operation Shatter. Jump on my mark." The 20 human ships, which had been waiting silently, vanished. They reappeared inside the massive semi-sentient crystal wave. For a moment, their hulls flickered, the immense energy of the Scourge threatening to overwhelm them. "Resonant engines to 110%, Eva commanded. "Hold together." They jumped again and again, performing a synchronized geometric dance within the heart of the enemy. They formed a perfect, expanding circle of 20 resonance points. "Now," Eva yelled, "activate the Cascade." From 20 points within the Scourge, the resonance engines fired. They didn't fire beams or projectiles. They fired a single, pure, harmonic frequency. The frequency of shattering. For a single silent moment, nothing happened. Then, a flaw, a single crack appeared on the black crystalline surface. The crack spread, branching out like lightning in reverse. The pure, coordinated frequency tore through the Scourge's lattice, forcing a chain reaction. The Scourge, the great devourer of galaxies, did not explode. It simply disintegrated. The black wall of crystal collapsed into trillions upon trillions of inert, harmless dust particles, glittering like a new nebula in the darkness. Silence reigned. Then, the comms erupted in a cacophony of cheers from 2,000 Cathar ships. They had witnessed a miracle. They had seen the heretical technology save them from utter annihilation. On the bridge of the unshakable word, High Executor Malachor removed his command insignia and placed it on the console. He turned to Prelate Orin. "You were right, Prelate. I saw heresy. I should have seen salvation." Later, in a formal ceremony aboard Olympus Station, the Cathar Imperium officially dissolved the Purifier fleet and reclassified humanity not as heretics, but as guardians of resonance, an independent and respected power. The misunderstanding, born of fear, had been washed away in the crucible of a shared battle for survival. Humanity had not sought to conquer the galaxy, but by staying true to its nature, by choosing mercy over power and ingenuity over brute force, it had saved it. The universe is full of threats, both known and unknown. Humanity's unique ability to adapt and think differently has always been our greatest asset. What human trait do you believe is our most powerful weapon against the darkness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective.